Thank you so very much. The reason I deleted all those messages, I sent them to the wrong person. And I just sent them to different person. So if you see what I did, that's what happened. I'm like, oh, it's gonna send it to the wrong person. In case you wonder why I did that. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Asatara Satashi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gogopinath Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai Mathura Dhama Ki Jai Navadvip Mayapur Dhama Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dhama Ki Jai Gangamaya Jamuna Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Gaur Premanande All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvase Susunyavadi Paskatyade Shatarane Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatham Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Vanchakalpatrubhischa Kripa Sindhabhyevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnaveyo Namo Namaha Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's May 10th, 2026, in New Goloka, Hillsborough, North Carolina. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 73, Text 27. Te pujita mukundena Rajano Mr. Kundalaha Virejur Mochita Kleshat Pravridante Yatagraha. Please chant. Rajano Mr. Kundala Vrajejur Mochita Kleshat Pravridante Yatagraha. Chita Kleshat Pravridante Yatagraha. Rajano Mr. Kundala Vrajejur Mochita Kleshat Te pujita mukundena Rajano Mr. Kundala Vrajejur Mochita Kleshat Pravridante Yatagraha. Te pujita mukundena Rajano Mr. Kundala Vrajejur Mochita Kleshat Pravridante Yatagraha. Te, they, pujitaha, honored, mukundena, by Lord Krishna, Rajanaha, the kings, Mrista, gleaming, Kundalaha, whose earrings, Vivrejuhu, appeared splendid, Mochitaha, released, Kleshat, from their distress, Pravrit, of the rainy season, Ante, at the end, Yata, as, Graha, the planets such as the moon. BBT translation. Honored by Lord Mukunda and freed from tribulations, the kings showed splendidly, their earrings gleaming, just as the moon and other celestial bodies shine brilliantly in the sky at the end of the rainy season. Srila Prabhupada's translation from Krishna book. Since the kings were so mercifully treated by Lord Krishna, they felt great happiness, and their bright faces appeared just like the stars in the sky after the end of the rainy season. There's no BBT commentary. We're going to read the commentary by Srila Sanatan Goswami. Respected or worshipped by the Lord, who gives supreme bliss, Mukundena, with glittering earrings, they shone even more than before, Virejuhu. Though all other ornaments shone, their earrings especially shone because of the beauty of their faces. So their faces were so beautiful, it was reflecting off the earrings that shone. They were freed from the suffering of imprisonment and from samsara. This was the reason they shone with pleasing faces. An example is given to show the beauty arising after freedom from suffering in prison. The monsoon season with clouds is like the imprisonment hiding their beauty. Te pujita mukundena rajano mr kundalaha virejur mochita kleshat pravrid ante yata graha. Honored by Lord Mukunda and freed from tribulation, the king showed splendidly, their earrings gleaming, just as the moon and other celestial bodies shine brilliantly at the sky at the end of the rainy season. So the kings are looking very beautiful. Most people want to be attractive, correct? Anybody here want to be ugly? Actually, beauty is a sign of good karma, correct? Our astrologer? Yes? It's one of the signifiers that you did good karma in your previous life. Do you know that people who are more attracted are more trusted? When someone sees someone who's attractive, they trust them more. Of course, this operated in what Leela? The people trusted somebody because they were beautiful. Mohini. Yes, the demons trusted her just because she was beautiful. And she even said to them, don't trust me. And they're like, no, we're going to trust you anyway. What other Leela? Putana. Right? She was so beautiful, everybody just trusted her. People who are attractive make more money also. By the way, if people are too attractive, then others think that they don't have any intelligence or any talents. It's quite interesting. When people are like superlatively beautiful, people assume that they're very superficial people. So that's also kind of interesting. So there's a $600 billion beauty industry. $600 billion is what people spend per year on trying to look beautiful. So that includes like cosmetics, jewelry here, the king's jewelry is mentioned, fashion. I don't know if that includes plastic surgery, but all the things that people do, people spend an incredible amount of money and time. And time. So I once saw this little video. The guy says, what do I do to get ready for bed? I brush my teeth, I wash my face. What does my wife do to get ready for bed? She puts one cream on her face, another cream on her body. She puts a mask on. She puts stuff in her hair. And it takes her 45 minutes to get ready for bed, doing all the different things to make herself beautiful. But the actual source of beauty is, as we were saying, piety, but ultimately it's Krishna consciousness, isn't it? Which is above even material piety. And sinful activity, materialistic activity, is really what makes us ugly. You know, you can try to be beautiful if you're a materialistic person, but ultimately, what do they say? It's like putting lipstick on a pig. It doesn't really improve anything, and it just annoys the pig. And why is it that we become beautiful in spiritual life? Because Krishna honors his devotees. Krishna worships his devotees. Krishna is giving his luster and effulgence and power to his devotees. So there's a nice verse in the 5th canto regarding the hellish planets in 526:36. It says, one who in this world or this life is very proud of his wealth, always thinks, I am so rich, who can equal me? His vision is twisted, and he is always afraid that someone will take his wealth. In fact, he even suspects his superiors. His face and heart dry up at the thought of losing his wealth, and therefore he always looks like a wretched fiend. He is not in any way able to obtain actual happiness, and he does not know what it is to be free from anxiety. Right, we've noticed even if people have physically nice features, if they don't have good character, they're not really beautiful. Have you all noticed that? Sometimes initially you might see someone and think, wow, this person's really attractive, and you get to know them for a while, and you get to know that their character is not very good, and you see that their beauty diminishes. But even if someone is beautiful in terms of, you know, symmetry of face and their bone structure and their complexion, if they're constantly in anxiety, How am I going to enjoy the world? How it darkens them. Yeah? We have another funny example of Shishupal in 1054:10, that after Krishna kidnapped Rukmini, it said that his complexion was drained of color. His enthusiasm was gone. His face looked dried up. So that's the general mode, because in this world, the reason that we've come to this world and the reason we stay here is that we want to take the position of Krishna as the enjoyer. We want to enjoy Radharani. We want to enjoy Sita Devi. We want to enjoy Lakshmi on our own, like Ravana or like Shishupal. And then what happens? Instead of getting Krishna's internal Shakti, we get who? Maya. Srimati Radharani is not going to be, our servant, our pleasure energy. So we end up getting her expansion in the form of Durga, and Durga's riding on what? A lion. And what does she have in her hand? A trident. And then she's always piercing us with Adi Daivik, Adi Atmik, Adi Bhotik. And so we're not very happy. We're full of anxiety. And this manifests in our countenance. It manifests, and we lose our luster, we lose our effulgence. And a lot of so-called beautiful people in this world are beautiful artificially. They're beautiful by putting all kinds of stuff on their body and, creating an artificial illusion of beauty that's not really there. But spiritual life gives real beauty and luster. Prabhupada would often comment on this. He would often say how his disciples were what? Spiritually beautiful, but something particularly in regard to today's verse, right? Why were the earrings glowing? Because what was shining? Their faces. So Prabhupada would often say, my disciples are very, but particularly bright-faced. Bright-faced. There was some reporter who mentioned in an article how the Hare Krishnas were very bright-faced. Prabhupada also had an airline pilot once come and sit with him during the flight and say, how are your disciples so bright-faced? So it's something Prabhupada really picked up on, and he talked about it a lot. So in Krishna Book Chapter 20, which is very relevant to this verse, because this is, the kings look beautiful. Anyone remember the comparison? Like what? Yeah, they made their earrings look beautiful, but what was the comparison? There was a simile here. Like the planets look after the rainy season. Because in the rainy season in India, you can't see the planets because there's so many clouds. So when the rainy season's finished, then all the planets, the graha, the planets, which in the BBT translation, they say the moon, they look especially brilliant in the clear sky. Of course, we don't see that so much anymore in the world because of light pollution. One of the things about Hawaii, there's hardly any light pollution. So some of the world's top telescopes are there on the top of the mountains because you can see the heavenly bodies very clearly. So in Krishna Book Chapter 20, which Prabhupada made into light of, which Prabhupada wanted as light of the Bhagavata, is about the rainy season and right after the rainy season. And Prabhupada writes, during the rainy season, all living entities in the land, sky, and water become very much refreshed, exactly like one who engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. We have practical experience of this with our students in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Before becoming students, they were dirty looking, although they had naturally beautiful personal features. Due to having no information of Krishna consciousness, they appeared very dirty and wretched. Since they have taken to Krishna consciousness, their health has improved, and by following the rules and regulations, their bodily luster has increased. Right? Prabhupada also writes this in a purport in 7:13:18. Because of being experienced in self-realization, a transcendentalist certainly becomes very bright-faced. Queen Kunti talks about how when Krishna walked on the surface of the earth, his footprints made the earth very beautiful. His footprints beautified the earth. And Prabhupada, in his lecture on it, which is in Teachings of Queen Kunti, verse 22nd, he said that this phenomena doesn't just exist when Krishna's walking around on the planet, but it exists now. That when we're in touch with Krishna, we also look very beautiful. So we should advertise, I suppose, like in the early days of the movement, the devotees, because so many people were taking intoxicants to get high, they made these posters, "Get high forever, just chant Hare Krishna." So we should advertise, "Be really beautiful, chant Hare Krishna." So how is it that Krishna gives this beauty to his devotees? And I think one of the most astonishing things in this verse is the word pujita mukundena. Puja means to worship. Who was worshiping whom here? Krishna's worshiping the kings. Krishna's worshiping the kings. Mukundena, ena, the suffix, means by Krishna, was being done by Krishna. Krishna was doing the worship, te, of them. Krishna was worshiping them. So we generally think, well, we're supposed to worship Krishna. We don't think Krishna is supposed to worship us. But Krishna likes to love his devotees. Krishna likes to love his devotees. Krishna is called Akila Rasamrita Murti. He's experiencing all rasa. So in order for there to be rasa, there has to be, in order to be pleasure, there has to be an object of pleasure. There has to be someone who's experiencing the object of pleasure, and then the exchange. Like Prabhupada will say, there has to be Bhagavan, Bhakta, and Bhakti. Correct? Right? That's what's wrong with impersonalism. That it's just we're all one. If you're all one, there's no pleasure. So for the devotees, Krishna is the object of pleasure. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, for the 12 rasas, Krishna is the object, except not for disgust. One's never disgusted with Krishna. And sometimes one can be angry at someone else other than Krishna. You can be angry at a demon. You could be angry at unfavorable people who are blocking your service, like you can get angry at Akura, who's taking Krishna away from Vrindavan. Sometimes you can be angry at the other devotees, too. Like sometimes the cowherd girls get angry at each other. Why aren't you treating Krishna properly? But in the 5 primary rasas, Krishna is the only object, and generally also in the secondary rasas. So if Krishna is the object, how is he going to enjoy all rasas? He also has to be the enjoyer. He has to have an object of enjoyment. Does this make sense to everybody? If he's only the object of other people's enjoyment, we were talking the other day how Krishna likes to show his beauty, his fragrance. Do you remember that? When the kings saw Krishna, and it was like they were licking him with licking his beauty with their eyes and smelling him with their ears. And we were quoting from Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur from 2933 about how Krishna wants to give his beauty, his fragrance, his softness to his devotees for their enjoyment. But who's going to be the object of Krishna's enjoyment? So, of course, we know that Krishna takes the position of Mahaprabhu in order to become the ashraya, the shelter of rasa, and to have himself, Krishna, as the vishaya of rasa. But he also has his devotees as his object of worship. That Krishna feels joy at worshiping his devotees. Krishna feels joy at loving his devotees. My dear friends, Krishna feels joy at loving each of us. He feels joy at loving each of us. Mm-hmm. So we have some examples, right, of Krishna worshiping his devotees or decorating his devotees. Can anyone think of some examples? Sudama. Yes, actually there's one devotee I'm talking to about possibly doing the cover illustration for our new book, and he was showing me some sections of the painting he's working on with Krishna and Dwarka and Rukmini worshiping Sudama. He really worships Sudama. He gives him foot wash, fragrant paste, incense, lamp. He goes through all of the items of worship with Sudama as if he was a deity, like what we do with the deities. Any other instance where Krishna was like decorating his devotees? I mean, here he does it indirectly through Sahadev, through Jarasandar's son. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I know Aditya Narayan Prabhu touched on that briefly on Friday, but there's a lot of reasons for that. Just this is kind of an aside. But we notice that whenever Krishna conquered kings, he didn't take over their kingdom. Which is interesting, because the Kshatriya kings are allowed to do that. They're allowed to conquer and take over. I mean, now that's kind of out of fashion in the world. But that was allowed if a king was mistreating their citizens. Or you have to put somebody competent in charge, which is what we try to do nowadays, though usually it's a failure, correct? Like we go into some country, we take out the evil leader, and we try to put somebody good in charge, but often the person we put in charge is not much better than the person we deposed. So Krishna would, like when he killed Kamsa, who did he put in charge? Ugrasena. Here he's killing through Bhima, Jarasandhar, and he doesn't take over the kingdom. He puts Jarasandar's son, Sahadev, in charge. And it's quite significant because Jarasandhar had imprisoned the kings to show that Sahadev was competent, to show that he was righteous, to show that he wasn't exploitive. He had Sahadev actually decorate these kings on Krishna's order. So Krishna was ordering it, Krishna was standing right there, but Sahadev is actually doing this. Another Brahmana that Krishna worshipped was the messenger sent by Rukmini to tell Krishna, hey, Rukmini is going to be kidnapped by Shishupal, you better hurry up and get her. Any examples of Krishna like decorating devotees, worshiping them in terms of decorating them? Yes? Krishna decorates Radharani. And it's mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion that one of Krishna's qualities is that he's a very artistic dresser. But this doesn't just mean how Krishna dresses, right? And Krishna's very particular to look first class all the time, right? Before he jumps on Kaliya, he tightens his belt, he puts his curls up into his turban, he makes sure that he looks really cool for the photographs. All the pictures we have, that Krishna's looking really cool while he's dancing on Kaliya. Of course, sometimes he doesn't care how he looked. When he was running after Bhishma with the wheel, he forgot about his appearance. He dropped his outer cloth on the way and didn't even notice. His hair was covered with dust and looked white, which we can remember when we see the white clouds, which are Krishna's hair on his head, how Krishna's covered with dust on the battlefield, or how he's covered with dust when he comes back to the village of Vraja. But anyway, yes, sorry to go on a little tangent there again. But the fact that he's a very good dresser doesn't just mean that he makes sure that he's well dressed, but he's also very expert at dressing his lady friends. So many, many examples in the works of the Acharyas about how he's dressing Srimati Radharani, fixing her hair. We have a temple right at Kusham Sarovara that is where Krishna decorates Srimati Radharani's hair, and the deities are Krishna's combing Srimati Radharani's hair, and she's holding a mirror, and who's she looking at in the mirror? Krishna. Most people, if they go to a beauty parlor and someone's dressing their hair, they're looking at themselves. Oh, how nicely my hair is dressed. Right? Prabhupada says that the gopis dress themselves to please Krishna, not for their own ego. He says this is practically incomprehensible in the world. So she's just holding the mirror up to see Krishna. So of course this is explained nicely even in not only in the works of our Acharyas, but also in the Bhagavatam in the 32nd chapter of the 10th canto, chapter 4, where it said that Krishna, showing his mercy, wiped away the gopis' tears with his lotus hands, that was their tears of joy, and restored their clothing and ornaments. So their clothing and ornaments had gotten disarrayed when they were dancing. Sometimes that happens with our dancers. You've seen? Sometimes our dancers do a performance and they're dancing so vigorously that something, right, one of their ankle bells falls on the stage. You've all seen this, right? And a necklace gets, usually they pin the necklaces. If you've ever wondered why when they dance their necklace isn't moving around, they've pinned it. Sometimes one of their hair ornaments comes out. So when the gopis were dancing with Krishna, they actually forgot themselves, kind of like when Krishna's running towards Bhishma, he forgets himself. They completely forget themselves, and everything becomes disarrayed, and when they're done, Krishna fixes everything for them. In the Krishna Bhavanamrita, it says, Krishna arranged the hair of the gopis, decorated them with forest flowers, and adorned their limbs with colorful mineral pigments. So just like we have now with Sudama worshipping with the kings. So Krishna's not just doing this with the gopis, he's doing this with the kings as well. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu often decorates his devotees. Of course, sometimes he worships his devotees. He worships especially Advaita Acharya. But he also worships his devotees. So in Madhya Lila chapter 13, text 29 about the Rath Yatra, it says, as the car stood still, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gathered all his devotees and with his own hand decorated them with flower garlands and sandalwood pulp. Imagine that. Like right now our pujari is decorating Radha Golokananda with flower garlands. Imagine if you came and Golokananda walks off the altar and gives you a flower garland and sandalwood paste. So Lord Chaitanya was doing this with the devotees. And also in Anjalila chapter 11, text 89, it says, after all the devotees finished accepting prasad and had washed their hands and mouths, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decorated each of them with a flower garland and sandalwood pulp. So the Lord is personally doing that. Again, if you can just imagine, you know, all of us sit down and take prasadam and then we're finished. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu walks in Prabhupada Hall. Of course, we probably should straighten it up first. But anyway, if he walked in Prabhupada Hall, and then he gave everybody garlands and sandalwood paste. Imagine how ecstatic that would be. It would be completely, overwhelmingly ecstatic. Now, we find that sometimes that Krishna touches the body of a devotee and gives them also beauty. So, of course, our prime example of that would be Kubja. Right? She had some deformity, and the Lord touches her and turns her into the most beautiful of all women. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does this at least twice. Takes someone who's diseased, touches them, and makes them physically beautiful. Vasudeva, the leper, yes, and he becomes so beautiful. It said he became as beautiful as Cupid. And then he worried he would become proud of his beauty, and Mahaprabhu told him, you just always meditate on me and chant, and you'll never become proud. Also, Srila Sanatana Goswami got some sort of skin disease where he had such rashes. The rashes were weeping. If you've ever seen somebody sometimes with skin diseases like eczema, they'll actually become weepy. So he's covered with these weeping sores, and Mahaprabhu would embrace him all the time. And Srila Sanatana Goswami would say, don't touch me, don't touch me. You know, this stuff is going to get on your body. And Mahaprabhu would say, it's like mother is changing her baby's diaper, and some of the poop gets on the mother, and she feels like it's sandalwood paste. I don't know if I ever quite felt like that. But he's saying, you know, you don't mind at least. I don't know if I ever thought it was sandalwood paste, but I don't know if I should tell this story. So when we first moved to the New York Temple in 1975, we had been promised an apartment, but it was horrific. Like it was covered with 2 inches of dust, and the stove didn't work, and it was up 4 flights of stairs, and I wouldn't live there. So I had to stay in the temple while my husband looked for a place, and they gave me a closet without a door in the Brahmacharini ashram. So our Murari, our baby, was like 2 months old, 3 months old, and they said, you can't disturb the women at night because they have to go out on book distribution the next day. They have to get enough sleep. So I had to make sure like he didn't cry at night. And one night I was feeding him, and I went to change his diaper in the dark with no door. And as I lifted him up to change his diaper, he pooped all over me. Because little tiny babies have liquid poop because they're just drinking milk. You know, their poop is just liquid. Anyway, I had to figure out a way to like go to the bathroom and clean him up without waking anybody up. I definitely did not think that it was like sandalwood paste. It was covering my whole face and hair. But Mahaprabhu's saying like this, he's saying, I'm feeling like your itching sores are like sandalwood paste. And then one time when Mahaprabhu embraced him, all of his skin disease went away, and his body became like molten gold. And at that time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was glorifying the body of a devotee. He's saying that the body of a devotee becomes spiritualized. It's no longer acting materially. And this is the main reason why a devotee in Krishna consciousness starts glowing and looking beautiful, because their body has become spiritualized. Now, there's a nice explanation of this in the 29th chapter of the 10th canto, verses 10 to 11. This is the beginning of the Rasa Leela, and there's a very nice commentary by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. I would urge you to read it. It's much too long for me to read here, but it's on verses 10 and 11, chapter 29 in the 10th canto by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And it's answering the question of how could Krishna dance with the gopis, with other men's wives, if he's God. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is talking about how these gopis had spiritual bodies. And he gives a very nice explanation that if we engage our senses in the service of the Lord, our bodies become spiritualized. And if we engage our senses in materialistic things, that makes our bodies materialistic. So I'm going to just read one section. He says, according to the level of devotional service, to that degree, the transcendental aspects of one's body become prominent and the material aspects diminish. So let's say a person is doing some devotional service, but also some sense gratification. So then their body will be lustrous according to that, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, according to their proportion of spirituality. Of course, very nicely by the same Acharya in Madhurya Kadambini, he talks about that when we first take up bhakti, when we're at Adu Shraddha, our absorption in ourself is absolute, and our absorption in the Lord is just a trace. And at Prema, our absorption in Krishna is absolute, and there's not even any trace of personal absorption. And as our absorption in the Lord increases, our absorption in ourself diminishes. And Prabhupada will talk about gradually and proportionally. And you see that the more devotees are engaged, Rishikesha Rishikena Sevanam Bhakti Uchite, the more we engage our mind, our eyes, our nose, our tongue, our ear, our hands, our legs in serving Krishna, the more that Krishna is pleased with us. And then Krishna is also decorating us. And the more we become lustrous and beautiful. We see even in this material world, the more Krishna conscious persons are, the more beautiful their place is. Like the higher and higher planets are degrees of Krishna consciousness. Where the place is more beautiful, the persons are more beautiful. As we engage in service, we become more and more radiant. Now, this is a question, though, of inner engagement, not just mechanical engagement. It is entirely possible, and I know this is depressing, but it's entirely possible to mechanically engage in service and not go through an arta nivritti. Prabhupada said if you want to just keep things as they are, then you can go on chanting and chanting. We have this 10th offense. What is the 10th offense? To maintain material attachments, even after understanding, to not have complete faith in the holy name, to maintain our material attachments. So if I'm chanting, but I'm maintaining my attachments. We see Ramachandra Puri, right? He's so austere and all this, but he's very attached to his ego, isn't he? To his pride. He thinks he's better than everybody else. He loses the mercy of his guru. He offends the Supreme Lord, even though externally he's very pukka. Or Daksha. Daksha was effulgent, actually. He was effulgent, but because, again, he had this arrogance, he had this ego, this pride, he had this envy of the great devotees. He had a condemning attitude towards Lord Shiva, and in his next life, Narada Muni, he loses this beauty. He starts looking like a goat. Literally. He lost his beauty and looked like a goat. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami talks about in Manashiksha, in the 6th verse, how, we can think we're getting purified by bhakti and actually bathing in donkey urine. And what is our evidence? If you're bathing in donkey urine, you're burning, you're dissatisfied. People who are ostensibly in bhakti, but they're always like bitter and angry and critical and burning. And they dry up. Yes? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So when we're talking about engaging our senses in the service of the Lord, this is with love. Not to pose ourselves as some big religionist or to convince ourselves that, oh, I'm following everything. So if we really want to be beautiful, we don't have to spend $600 billion. Not necessary. Of course, Prabhupada says first dress, then address. One time the devotees gave Prabhupada some nice clothes with pearl buttons on his kurta before an engagement, and Prabhupada looked in the mirror and spun around and said, first dress, then address. So we should try, of course, to look nice because we're preachers, but if we really want beauty and luster, then we should fully engage ourselves in the service of the Lord, and then Krishna will He'll personally decorate us with all good qualities. Questions, comments, additions, subtractions, chastisements? Yes, Dayavir Prabhu. Krishna did learn how to dress from Sanipani Muni, but you know, when he was jumping on Kali, he hadn't gone to school yet. But he did learn that, yeah. Sanipani Muni taught him how to decorate hair, and yeah. It was one of the arts he learned in school. We'll have to add that to our curriculum. Yes. There's no learning if you don't behave as a student. Yes, Krishna does set that example to behave humbly. Anything else, Maharaj? You have any point? Anybody else? Anything they'd like to bring up? Yes, Prabhu. Oh, you were thinking about the Rajasuya where he was washing everyone's feet. Yes. That was his job in the festival. We don't usually assign that job in a festival, right? You take care of the parking lot, take care of the pots, take care of the serve out. We don't usually have a foot washer. Yes, he was respecting Maharaj Yudhisthira and showing how he was serving Maharaj Yudhisthira. What wonderful understanding we have by the grace of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anything good in this class is by Prabhupada's mercy. Any mistakes are mine, so you please take the good and leave aside the mistakes.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Bhagom Vikamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami pritimanti pasyanti panti kayanti chiram naganti ananda chinmaya sadhu jala vigrahasya govindam adipurusham amaham bhajami govindam adipurusham amaham bhajami govindam adipurusham amaham bhajami govindam adipurusham amaham bhajami govindam adipurusham amaham bhajami.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Tanay Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Dhamaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachara Nege Niveseshatanya Madeva Satya Desatane Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jadvaita Ganata Sivasari Gaurmata Vrinda Shri Krishna Nana Prabhu Nityananda Dvaita Gadada Sivasari Gaurmata Vrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Dvaita Gadada Sivasari Gaurmata Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nad, Hagorakanana, Gorakanana, Rate. Nad, Hagorakanana, Gorakanana, Rate. Nad. Hey, na re re re, na che. Re ra te, na re re, ra te, na te. Shri Ragat, hey, Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Pad, Acharya, Satashi, Shiva, Say Nanda Shidway to get out of Sivasiti Gaur Bhakta Vrindijaya Shishi Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sai Makunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathurnam Ki Jai Jagadha Sami Ki Jai Munamaya Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Sarveda Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari all glory is the assembly of devotees, all glory is the assembly of devotees, all glory is the assembly of devotees, all glory is to Shri Guru Goloka Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Chaitanya Marjanam Bhava Advagni Nivapanam Pratipadam Pranamritasvadanam Sarvatmasnapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktish Tatrapita Niyamata Smaranena Kala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaivrami Drishanihan Aninan Raga Trinada Peace Nichena Torara Peace Hishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahare Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitamba Jagabishikamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhavatad Bhaktirad Hai Takitwaye Ainanda Tanuja King Guram Patitanam Shmei Babam Buddha Kripayat Avapada Pankaja Sita Atuli Sadrasam Vachintaya Nayanam Galula Srudaraya Vadanam Gadgada Rudya Gira Pulaka Nishatamba Pukada Tava Nama Grahneve Vishyate Jugai Tam Namishena Chakshusha Pravishaitam Shunyaitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahena Me Ashlishyava Pada Panastumam Adarshanam Marma Tom Kurotuva Yata Datava Vandatu Lampato Matprananatas Dusevana Paraha. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we were always anxious. Oh, my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. Osana Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love? flowing constantly when I chant your holy name. When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shikshastika ki jai.